All right, everybody. Good evening. Good evening. Today is December 17th of 2025. This is going to be our final Q&A for the year of 2025. Normally, we do these meetings on the last Wednesday of every month, but this year it just so happened to fall on Christmas Eve. And I was thinking, I don't know that anyone's going to want to hang out with me on Christmas Eve. So instead, we're meeting together today, and so I'm really excited to get a chance to connect with you guys and answer any questions that you might have about homeschooling, unschooling, Peaceful Worldschooling, PAX Academy. So any questions that you guys may have, if you have a question, you can just unmute yourself and talk. Or if you prefer, you can always drop your questions in the chat and I'll make sure to answer every single one. All right, so is there someone who would like to kick us off tonight with the question that you have? Anyone want to share first? All right. I see Grace commented in the chat here and said, "Hey, I wasn't expecting to get on. I just saw your email. I've always wondered about unschooling." Awesome, Grace. Well, I'm glad that you decided to pop on, even if it wasn't in your scheduled plans for tonight. I'm glad you're here hanging out with us. Grace, have you already started homeschooling, or are your kids still in school? Tell me a little bit about your family. All right. She said it seems that people use the term unschooling as an excuse to not do much. Yeah,
Um,
this is a big comment. Oh, good. You're unmuted yourself. Okay, perfect. Go
Sorry,
for
yeah, I
it.
had to walk away from the craziness of my household.
No worries. We're happy to have the crazy in the background. You might hear some crazy in my background. We're all moms here. We've got kids and life and stuff happening, so
It's
no
all
worries at
how
all.
it is. Yeah. No, we've homeschooled for quite a few years, and now we're just homeschooling the two little ones. But I've always seen people just kind of use unschooling as a, hey, I don't want to do anything.
Mm,
And so then because so then I just wonder how is it supposed to work? Because I know that's not how it's supposed to work.
yeah. Yeah, I appreciate you asking that question. And to be honest, I think this is something that every unschooler wrestles with, this idea of like, okay, what is the difference between true, authentic unschooling and educational neglect? Because there is a huge difference.
Yes.
Unschooling is not neglectful, but I think there are people that use the term unschooling to kind of cover over educational neglect or excuse educational neglect. And as a
Hmm.
teacher, I would even say that there are people who send their kids to school and are still educationally neglectful because I've got
No,
some chills.
I've seen that too. I've seen that
Yeah,
too.
yeah. So having this conversation around like, well, what does it really mean to be neglectful, I think is really important in being able to identify what does neglect really look like, right? And I think a big piece of understanding the difference between unschooling and neglect is unschooling is not unparenting, right? It's not just like this crazy free for all where we're just like not present or engaged with our kids. In fact, I think that if we are unschooling with integrity, it really does require a lot more intentionality because we're not just following some kind of like pre-scripted curriculum. We're really having to be intentional to spend time with our kids, to look for resources that will fit their interests,
Mhm.
to be engaged with them in what they love. And so it takes, like, it really does require you to be a parent who is present and engaged and actively participating in the life and the learning that your child is doing.
Yeah.
I think, when people hear the term unschooling, it's very tempting to think of it as like unparenting,
Mhm.
but it's not. It's being very intentional about supporting your child in their unique passions and interests. So I always say, like, I think a good measure for neglect is looking at the impact of that on your child specifically. So, like, if your child is happy and healthy and thriving, then keep going, right?
Yeah.
It's funny. I was thinking about like this whole idea of like neglect and because I was researching about the same question of like, well, how does the world define neglect? Like what does that really mean? What does that really look like? Um, and they talk about like kids not having like their basic needs met, right? Like they're not um parents that don't feed them or that don't bathe their kids or that don't have buy clothes for them or shoes or whatever, like they're not providing like the basic necessities that they need to live and to survive, basically, right?
Mhm.
Um, and it's funny because like I mean we've lived in Guatemala where like I have families that live in Guatemala and their kids don't like they don't shower, they don't all have like the nicest clothes and shoes, like they're living in poverty, but I wouldn't say that that parent is neglectful, right? Like the moms are like love their kids, their kids despite the fact that they might have a lot of like material goods, like the parent is very much like engaged in their child's life and an active part of what they're doing and the child is happy. Like it's you can see this child is happy. They may not have all, like clothes, their hair might be a little bit messy, but like they're living in these circumstances of extreme poverty and it's like I wouldn't look at that child and say that the parent is neglectful just because they're living in extreme poverty kind of a thing. Um,
Right.
and so kind of I think being able to look at like the outcome in your child is a good measure to be able to say like, okay, is my child happy? Are they healthy? Are they thriving in their learning experiences? And if not, then it's time to make a change. And then also kind of reflecting for yourself is saying like, am I being a present parent? Am I just kind of washing my hands and like, okay, just go, you know, play
Yeah.
video games all day and
Right.
I won't talk to you. I won't interact with you. I won't, you know, give
Right.
you any
Yeah.
kind of opportunities and we'll
Yeah.
just see,
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, so I really do think it comes down to intention, and it's kind of like they talk about like beauty is in the eye of the beholder. I think a lot of that is very subjective too. Like there's like and I hear it like I hear kids that have gone through unschooling and they become adults and they're like, no, my parents absolutely neglected me. Like I wanted to learn this, and my parent was just like, nope, or things like that. And it's like, no, that's totally missing the
That's
heart of
not
unschooling at
right.
all. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's not the goal. So, yeah, it's important that we can be present and engaged parents, even with an unschooling philosophy. It's just we're not following someone else's agenda for their education. We're building
Yeah.
their learning around what they love. So, does that
Right.
does that clarify it a little bit?
Yeah, it does. It does. The word neglect, educational neglect. I mean, it seems like it could be an obvious term, but it kind of just using that language just like made it click in my brain.
Yeah. Yeah, and when we think about educational neglect, I mean, like you said, it's like we see that in all different types of educational environments, right? Like there are kids who go to public school, private school, that are homeschooled, that do all kinds of things that are educationally neglectful. Sorry, I don't know what is happening. Sorry, let me, I don't know who this is. Hold on. Sorry,
Um,
someone just popped on my live for some reason. And I was trying to get out of it and I don't know how they got there. Anyways, sorry. For those of you who are not seeing, I'm also live on TikTok, and so they're recording over
okay.
there. All right. Yeah. So I hope that helped clarify your question. I'm really glad that you
Yeah,
asked
it
that
did.
question. Typically, I tell parents like if you're asking if this is educational neglect, you're probably not at risk for doing this, for being educational neglectful, because neglectful parents don't care if they're neglecting
Right.
their kids.
Right. Yeah.
So if you've had that thought, like, oh gosh, I wonder if this is educational neglect, odds are you're probably not.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
a neglectful parent doesn't care.
Cool. Yeah. Thank you.
All right. Any other questions, Grace? While I got you here.
Um, Not right off, but I might.
Okay, no worries.
Might
Well,
have
I'm glad that you popped on the call, even though I know it wasn't in your plans for today. It's great
Yeah.
to see another face. I'm like used to seeing black screens all the time, so it's nice to see
Right.
another human.
Yeah. Thanks.
You're welcome. You're welcome. All right. I saw Samantha left a comment in the chat, said, I'm a little confused about PAX Academy and Peaceful Worldschooling. I would love to know what this exactly involves. My daughter will be in kindergarten age with the upcoming school year. I'm not sure where to start. It's all very new and quite overwhelming. Hey, Samantha, could you first tell me what state you live in? Maryland. Oh, yay. Awesome. What county? Oh, no worries. Okay. So, all right, great. So, are you currently homeschooling already? Or, oh, guys, I saw your daughter will be in kindergarten next year. So it's something you're thinking about for next year is what I'm getting from your comment. Okay. So the difference between the two, is Peaceful Worldschoolers. For those of you who are not familiar, Peaceful Worldschoolers is our homeschool umbrella for families that live in Maryland. So we started out with Peaceful Worldschoolers just as like a homeschool umbrella for families that are here in Maryland. And what that means is that when you homeschool, you have two choices if you live in the state of Maryland. So actually, and for the rest of you that are watching, if you could just comment and let me know what state you live in, so that way I know what states we have represented here tonight. But I'll keep talking about the state of Maryland. So if you are homeschooling in the state of Maryland, you have to fill out a form that's called a Notice of Intent to Homeschool form. It's a two-page form, just asks for like basic information, name, address, date of birth, stuff like that. And then on the second page of that form, they're going to ask you to choose either option A or option B. So option A in the state of Maryland is what's known as the portfolio option. And if you live in Maryland and you choose option A, this option is free, but it means that you will be supervised by a representative from the county. So if you choose option A, someone from your county will meet with you twice a year, and you'll have to present to them a portfolio of all the things that you've done with your kid. And then basically that person will decide if you have done enough for them. And then you do that twice per year. So in most of the time, this is totally fine. Most of the time it goes fine. Like you meet with a reviewer and they check you off and you're good to go. However, the reason why I got involved in homeschooling in the state of Maryland over a decade ago was because a family that I was giving piano lessons to this girl, and she was a homeschooling student in Peachy County. And I gave her piano lessons, and the parents reached out to me and they were like, we just got this notice from the county that they felt like we hadn't done enough in our portfolio review. And not only are they threatening to remove our right to homeschool our daughter, but they're also threatening to remove her from the home entirely because they're accusing us of educational neglect. And I was like, what is happening right now? So in order for them to kind of avoid that whole mess, they had to basically meet with me, and I had to provide private tutoring for this girl every week for like the rest of the year. And I had to send updates to the county. It was a whole big thing. And it was a mess. It was very traumatic for the girl. It was traumatic for the parents. It was traumatic for me. And I was like, I'm not even the one going through this situation. And so I knew then, over a decade ago, that one day I was going to create something for parents, so that we wouldn't have to deal with this kind of stress and anxiety with someone who most of the times the reviewers have no idea anything about homeschooling. They've never homeschooled before. And so they don't understand homeschooling philosophy. They don't understand homeschooling strategies. And a lot of times they just try to like make you do more than what the state law actually requires. So thank God in Maryland, we have option B. And option B is what we refer to as the umbrella option. So Peaceful Worldschoolers, the organization that I created, is an option B. We're the umbrella option. And so basically when you enroll in the umbrella, we're basically the umbrella that's covering you and protecting you from the state. So we're that buffer between you and the state. And when you enroll with us, you notify the county that you're going to be with our umbrella. So that means that you're not supervised by the state anymore. You're going to be supervised by us. Now, Maryland state law only requires one thing of umbrellas, actually two. The one main thing that they require from us is that we have to do an annual review with you once per year. State law does not require that we do a portfolio review. They just say it has to be an annual review, like a parent-teacher conference kind of a thing. And so we actually give you three different options to do an annual review with us. Our easiest and most popular option is our group Zoom review. And this we do during the first week of April. It is an awesome time. We meet together via Zoom just like this, and we break out into breakout rooms, and you get to share about how awesome your year has been homeschooling. And we share about the things you want to celebrate, stuff that's been amazing. We also discuss and share any kind of challenges that you may have encountered over the year, and then any kind of changes that you want to make going forward in the future. And that's it. Easy peasy. All right, so that is if you go through the umbrella. Peaceful World Schoolers, like I said, it costs $100 per family per year. You enroll with the umbrella. Everyone leaves you alone, including me. And then we meet once a year to do our annual review, and that's basically it. PAX Academy is what I often jokingly refer to as option C, right? So if option A is the portfolio option B is the umbrella option C is the option that most people don't even know that they can do. And PAX Academy is actually registered in the state of Maryland as a private school. So what that means is that when you enroll in PAX Academy, you are legally considered a private school student. And because we're registered in the state of Maryland as what's called a church exempt private school, because of the separation of church and state, they don't have any right to tell us how to operate our private school. And so we kind of get to do what we want. And so as a private school, we are responsible to issue transcripts, diplomas, report cards, all the other things, just like any other private school would do. So when you're in the umbrella, because you're considered a homeschool, you as the parent are basically the school. So you would be responsible to give transcripts and diplomas and all those kinds of things. But when you're in PAX Academy, because you're enrolled in a private school, then we issue all of those academic records for you. And that just makes it the transition to college, career, if you're transferring to another school in the future, it just makes all of that a million times easier because you're presenting records from a private school as opposed to like a mom diploma kind of a thing. So did that explain the difference between the two for you?
Yeah, that was actually incredibly helpful. With with option A, I'm assuming that that would require you to follow Anne Arundel County Public School curriculum.
So you still have the freedom to choose the curriculum that you want to use, but you're required to provide documentation or proof to show that you have provided regular and thorough instruction in the 8 different required subject areas throughout the school year. So typically what that means is they want to see between 3 to 5 samples in every subject area throughout the year. So they want to see like names and dates and things like that. Some reviewers ask for a whole lot more. Like I've heard of reviewers asking for lesson plans, asking for attendance sheets, asking for like the daily curriculum that they've done. And especially for people like me, like my family and I, we're unschoolers. So we're not using a curriculum. My oldest is 11, my son is 7. We've never used a curriculum. And so it's like they're not going to understand what we
Yeah.
do. And so I was like, that's just like added stress in my life that I really don't need. And I don't need, in the example that I gave of the girl that I was tutoring with, she was doing an online program. Like she had documentation to show them, but they felt that it like wasn't enough for what they were wanting. I don't know. That lady must have gotten up on the wrong side of the bed, but um, but I was just like, what do you mean? Like, she did piano lessons with me every week. I mean, the girl was extremely active in a whole bunch of different things, and they still said, nope, it's not enough. You have to send your child back to public school where this poor girl was terribly bullied. And I was like, no, that's crazy. But yeah, so it's kind of like that Russian roulette, right? Of like, do I have to do this? But to answer your question, no, you don't have to use a curriculum. And in fact, there are some unschoolers that do choose to review with the county as well. It's just their evidence looks different, right? So like if I was going to review with the county, they want to see 3 to 5 samples for each subject area. So for me, if I were to review with the county, then I would have like a list of all the books that my daughter has read this year. And I would, keep detailed records of like these are the books that she's read for our English credit or for our history credit. I would show pictures of us in the Colosseum in Rome or pictures of us hiking the Mayan ruins in Guatemala or like our learning looks very different because we're learning in the real world, like we're not following a particular curriculum. So I would still have evidence for all the subject areas, but it just wouldn't look like workbooks and worksheets and stuff like that. But I
Okay.
just prefer to not have to deal with that mess at all.
No, that makes sense, especially in our county.
Yeah.
So what exactly does your day to day look like for unschooling? I mean, granted, I'm going to have a 5-year-old, so I know it would look drastically different compared to 11, but like, I, I guess I don't know exactly where to start because obviously I went to public school, so I'm set in like the curriculum ways.
Yeah.
Um, and like, how do you know that you're you're meeting expectations, I guess? Like, how do you know that your child is learning what they're supposed to learn?
Okay. Great question. So I would kind of throw that back on you. Who decides what they're supposed to learn?
Well, yes, me as a parent.
Yeah. I mean, and ultimately, I would say like they need to know what they need to know, right? Like
Yeah.
my child has to be able to figure out like what do I actually need to learn for my life, right? Like, and there's nothing again, it goes back to kind of that school mentality. There's nothing that exists in the world that says that your child has to know X, Y, Z because they happen to be this, have this birthday. Like that doesn't exist anywhere.
Yeah.
Right? Like we're all on the spectrum of like things that we know and things that we don't know. And it's so funny to me because like as adults, we would think that that would be really weird, right? Like no one I just celebrated my 30th birthday. I feel old now. But like no one would come up to me and like, "Hey, you're in grade 38. Do you have a mortgage yet? Like, did you do that? Oh no, you're behind." You know, you're behind, don't have a mortgage yet, you know? Like no one does that. I don't know, it's like weird to me that we do that with kids, that we like expect them to like know these random things just because somebody out there decided like 6 years old, that's when you learn the water cycle, you know?
Yeah.
I don't know, it's just kind of silly to me. But to kind of ask, let me ask you another question. Does your child know their colors?
Yes.
Okay. Does your child know any numbers?
Yes.
Does he or she know any letters?
Yes.
Okay. How do they learn those things?
Through play and conversational things like with me. I work from home, so I'm home with her every day.
Mhm.
So real life application.
Okay, so you mean you didn't go out and buy a curriculum and sit her down and be like, today is A day.
No,
Okay.
I have so many. I have like kindergarten workbooks, but we'll do like a page so sporadically. But she's incredibly smart. I I worry that like when it's actually time to start school, that I'm not gonna know what to do.
Well, let me tell you, if your child already knows their numbers, if they already know their letters and they already know their colors, does she know any shapes? I forgot to ask about that one.
Yes, she does.
Okay, well, congratulations, kindergarten is done.
Thank you.
No, truly, truly. Like by the end of kindergarten, that's what they want them to know. They want them to be able to know. Um, some schools, the requirement is they want to know their numbers from 0 to 20. They want them to know their letters. They want them to know like the shapes. And they want them to know all of the letters, uppercase and lowercase, by the end of kindergarten. So
Okay.
that's the standard. If we were going to compare them to public school, that's what they're looking for. And
Okay.
you just told me that your daughter learned all of that without ever using a curriculum.
Yes.
So you just keep doing what you're doing, and she'll learn everything else.
Okay. That makes me feel better.
Yeah. You're already doing it. You're already doing it. I know that it can feel like scary and overwhelming when we think of like, oh my gosh, now at school age and like in school they're doing XYZ. Um, but that's why like the deschooling part of the process is so important. And deschooling isn't, yes, and it is in part for our kids, but really it's for us, right? Because we're the ones who kind of approach this whole school educational thing with these preconceived ideas and mentalities that learning has to look like this and it has to be in this order and with these resources and in this way. And it can be really hard to break free of that mentality and really understand that all of life is learning. All learning is valuable in the same way that you said that your daughter learned all those things through engaging with you in the real world, through playing, through having a present, engaged parent, right? As we talked about before, having a parent who's present with them. She learned all those things from before. That's how she's going to continue learning the rest of her life.
Hmm.
Yeah. Does that make sense?
That does. It makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. So you're on a good path. You're already doing it. You just got to
Thank
keep
you.
doing it forever.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you for asking that question. All
Okay.
right, Lisa. I see Lisa's got her hand raised, and then Dr. Ivy.
Hi, Angela. Hi, everybody.
Hey, Lisa. It's great to hear you. I can't see you. Great to hear you.
So I have a question. How do you handle this kind of situation? So me and my kids, I took my kids to work with me one day, and then they wanted to go to the library. And when they came back, they said that some lady stopped them and said, "Aren't you kids supposed to be in school right now?" And like she said it in like this super stern way. And then like so we've had situations like that. And then one day we were shopping together and this lady said, "I didn't know school was out today. Is this some sort of holiday or something?" But like in this super nosy, like accusatory kind of way.
Yeah.
And I was listening to music, so I was like, "I'm sorry, did you say?" I heard her, but I'm like, are you talking to me?" She was like, "Yeah." And she softened a little bit. She's like, "Oh, is school out today?" And I'm like, if I was a man, I don't think you would be in my business right now like this. So how do you handle stuff like that?
Oh goodness, yes. Homeschooling out in the wild can be challenging, and I think that's a big part of homeschooling, whether you're homeschooling or unschooling, just being able to prepare your children and prepare yourself to be able to answer people's questions. If someone were to ask me like that out in the wild of like, oh, why aren't your kids in school? Or is today a school day? Or I didn't know kids were on vacation today. Usually I try to turn around and smile, and depending on the person or how I'm feeling that day, I might say something snarky like, um, yep, school's in session, but we homeschool. Or yep, school's in session, but I don't know. We learn everywhere we go, or something like that. But yeah, I think it just depends on who's talking to you and who's asking and how they're asking. Know that you don't owe any explanations to anybody, but oftentimes just a simple, short, yep, school's in session today, but we're homeschoolers and moving on. Or you can just answer their question, yep, school's in today. You don't need to know why I'm here in the grocery store at the library with my kids. I'm like, and the lady at the library is super weird. I'd be like, yes, this is our learning environment today. We are learning at the library. Like, that's weird. She would ask you that at the library, like, why aren't your kids in school? We're hanging out at the library. So yeah, that's weird. But I would definitely prepare some sort of answer like that. But I think just, very brief and to the point. We homeschool. Have a good day. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, my kids were like so caught off guard. They were like, what do we say? Oh, I felt so bad.
Yep,
Okay, thank you.
and I mean, and again, having like role playing those conversations is so helpful. I don't know how old your kids are. I can't remember off the top of my head. But practicing like, hey, if someone were to ask you this, like, what could you say? Another big one that I get to is like when kids start, or people, not kids, usually adults start like randomly quizzing them on math facts. Like that is so weird to me, but that has happened. I'm like, why do people do that? Like I would not do that to any public or private school kid, but they're like, your kid is homeschooled. What's 8 times 4? Like I don't like, why are you doing that? It's weird. But I think just being able to prepare them like to answer questions like that and just have the confidence to not be afraid. We're not doing anything wrong. We're not doing anything illegal. We're homeschooling. That's it. We're complying with state law. It's totally allowed. And I think the more that we can share that we're homeschooling and people can see, yes, we homeschool, we're normal people. We're out in the real world doing real world stuff, interacting with all different kinds of people, and we're here. Like it's okay. But yeah, definitely role playing with your kids so that way they're prepared for that moment and not like caught like a deer in headlights, I think is helpful.
So what would you say in regards to like the math quiz?
Usually if someone comes up and starts like quizzing my kids on math facts, I will step in and just say like, please stop.
Yeah, I
Um,
mean, yeah, straightforward. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, usually I'm like, actually, I did have an instance where it wasn't an adult that was quizzing my kids on math facts. It was a teenager, actually. They were on a swim team, and that was one of their first interactions with public school kids because it was a swim team, and this boy was like, he was like 15 or 16 years old, and every day he would just like hassle all of the kids that were homeschoolers on the team and just quiz them on like random math facts and a lot of them, I mean, like one of the girls was like in first grade and he's like asking her to do multiplication stuff she wouldn't know even if she was in public school, but it was just, I could tell it was really making them upset, like they felt very uncomfortable, like he's just randomly pop quizzing us on this math stuff all the time. And they had asked him to like kind of stop, and I could tell they felt uncomfortable, and he just kept going and going and going. So finally I turned around and I asked him, I was like, hey, you go to public school, right? What's sublimation? And he looked at me, he was like, what? And I was like, what, you've already passed ninth grade, so did you take high school biology? He was like, yeah. I was like, okay, well, what's sublimation? You should have learned that already, right? And he just looked at and I don't know. I don't remember. And I was like, yeah, so even though you went to school, there's things that you remember and things that you don't remember, and there's things that you know and things that you don't know, and there's things that I know and things that I don't know. And is that okay? And he said, yeah. And I was like, okay, so just like them, there's things that they know and things that they don't know, and that's okay. Just like it's okay for you to know things and not know other things. And he was like, okay, sorry. And he like never quizzed them again. But I mean, it's like kind of, I don't know, giving you a taste of your own medicine. But I was like, dude, these are like 8-year-old little girls, leave them alone. But it's true, right? Like I taught biology in ninth grade. Funny thing, they assigned me to teach biology. My background is not in the sciences or math at all. And because I taught special education, they would like stick me in all these subjects that I was not qualified to teach because I didn't know anything about them. But special ed, they just kind of stick you where they need you. And no one else wanted to teach math or science. And so that was where they put me. And so I had to teach a lesson about sublimation. I was like, I don't even know what this is. And I'm like, I have a master's degree. I'm supposed to teach these students about sublimation tomorrow. And I'm like Googling the night before. I'm like, what is this? Like, I had no idea what sublimation was. So homework for you guys. If you don't know what sublimation is, go ahead and look it up. But it's just one of those things. It's like, this is ninth grade biology. Why do they have to know that? I'm like, I'm 38 years old and I don't know what that word is, and I'm doing okay. So, it's not the end of the world if they don't know what sublimation is, like, and who decides that that's what you got to learn if you're in ninth grade? Like, it's just crazy to me. But yeah, so that's what I do. If they're quizzing my kids on stuff and making them feel uncomfortable, I do not mind stepping in and shutting that down because, like, you don't have to be mean. They're kids.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Dr. Ivy.
Hi, Angela. So
Hey.
I just wanted to to kind of support what you were saying about, because there was the question about the county and about the different type of evaluators, and
Yeah.
I went through that last year with my son for kindergarten, and then the first evaluator was really strict,
Mm.
very strict, and with the 8 subjects and all of that. And believe it or not, we were about not to pass that evaluation just because I didn't have a log of the things that my son did for physical education.
Oh
And
my
then,
gosh.
I was so upset. But then, I called Corinne, who is, Dr. Corinne, I don't,
Yes.
and she's very nice. And she said, no, 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 Yvette, don't worry about that. You can even if he walks around the neighborhood, that counts as a physical education activity. Just
Yeah.
create a log and write it, today we walked on and for 15 minutes or for half an hour. Today we used the scooter, or today we use this or that. So, like, if you decide to go down the route of option A, just ensure that make sure that you have a log for physical education activities, because if you have one of those, they will ask. Now, the second evaluation, like in the second semester, like we had a wonderful lady, and it was through Google Meet, and we were like super like extra ready with a portfolio with like 1,000 samples, like we were, because we had that experience the first semester, and
Yeah.
it was a breeze the second one. So, like Angela says, it depends on who the evaluator is.
Yeah.
And that's why we decided to go with the Peaceful World Schoolers, because we said, I don't want to go through that again, because you just don't know who will be, and now I have my daughter that is doing homeschooling for kindergarten, and then my son is now in first grade. So, and we're just doing what we think we should do. And my children, like you said, they know their letters, they read, they do everything, they add, they subtract everything, and no one here taught them how to read. Is they
Isn't that
learn how to read on
amazing?
their own. It's so amazing. They
It's like,
they
I
they
think
learn that
that's
on
like
their
one of my
own.
favorite things. Yeah,
Yes, yes.
it
So I
truly
just
is
wanted
amazing.
to say that, and to support what you are saying, because yes, I lived through that, and I am living proof that that does happen, when you go through the county.
Yes, thank you so very much for sharing your experiences with the county. I've heard a lot of people say similar things, and like Dr. Ivy mentioned, it really is like Russian roulette. Like most of the time you're fine, but it's that thing is like you never know who you're going to get. And I'm a parent who has struggled with anxiety for a good portion of my life, and I was like, that is just an extra layer of anxiety that I don't need in my life at all. And so for me, to be able to give parents the opportunity to homeschool with complete peace and without that added stress and anxiety, I'm happy to be able to do that through Peaceful World Schoolers or through PAX. All right, I see Yanil has a question. Hi, Yanil.
Hi, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. I just wanted to ask a question. I've been kind of in and out because my signal's been really crappy.
No worries.
So hopefully I didn't miss or I don't you don't have to repeat yourself on it. But I was wondering, is there like a community that we are able to gain access to taking we're looking into possibly option C and doing like the PAX. So it's like we're just wondering, is there like a community that we could tap into to be able to have like the kids kind of be able to meet with other kids and or other parents and kind of establish that camaraderie more or less to be able to allow the kids to have more like interaction with other kids of their age.
Yeah, for sure. What state do you guys live in now? I'm sorry, I missed that.
Yeah, sorry, we're in Maryland.
Oh, in Maryland. Okay, perfect. Well, then yes, we do. Maryland is actually where our largest community is. Are you in our Facebook group?
Yes, I am. Yes.
Okay. So in Maryland, we actually have community coordinators that plan field trips in almost every single county in Maryland every single week. So there's literally stuff happening every day of the week for you. You will be overwhelmed with opportunities to socialize, and you're going to be like, my schedule, I don't have time for all the socialization that's happening. So it's a great problem to have. Lots of opportunities to get out of the house, hang out, and meet other really cool people that are also homeschooling and unschooling right alongside you. And you're not limited to just your county. So if you like see something really cool happening in Baltimore, go hang out in Baltimore. If you see something cool happening in Montgomery County, where I live, come and join us in Montgomery County. So we want you to get out and explore and meet other people in the community and do really cool things with cool people. Besides that, we also have communities. So for people who are enrolled in Peaceful Worldschoolers and PAX Academy, we have a gaming club on Saturdays. So that's when the kids get together and they play Roblox and Minecraft together. Of course, there's an adult that's like they're kind of supervising, and of course, we recommend that parents actually play with your kids as well. We want this to be an opportunity for us to connect with our kids and enjoy the things that they enjoy. So that's a great opportunity. And then we also have some other things throughout the year where you're able to kind of connect with other kids. So, like for example, Valentine's Day is coming up. So we actually do a Valentine's Day exchange this is, again, totally optional. You're not required to do this, but if you would like to participate in our Valentine's Day exchange, we actually like mail Valentines to one another. And so that's a great opportunity to practice, handwriting. They're writing letters. They're learning how to make, cards. We ask them to do like handmade cards. So they're practicing art. All kinds of different school subjects can be included in there. And then they get to get a little gift in the mail. And so it's like Christmas in February where they get to, get something really special in the mail. And so the kids really enjoyed doing that last year. So we're going to continue that this year. We have end of the year parties where literally hundreds of kids come out and play. We're going to be doing field day again this year. Last year, we had 250 kids participate in our field day last year. So yeah, lots of opportunities for them to socialize and hang out. And then also not just here locally in Maryland, but also internationally. So Peaceful World Scholars, as I mentioned, we started just as like a Maryland umbrella, but now we're actually kind of spreading out and expanding into other parts of the world. And so actually I had a mom tell me the other day, she went on vacation with her family to California, and they actually like looked for the Peaceful World Scholars group in California and participated on their field trip in California while they were on vacation. So it's kind of like anywhere you go, you'll have a built-in community that's already there of people that share your beliefs and your values, and you'll get to have cool things planned for you to do. And for those of you who are listening, if you live in a place that does not already have a coordinator, and that sounds like something you would be interested in, like if you're someone who enjoys planning cool activities, you like to get out of the house, you enjoy, thinking about like creative things to explore your world and your community, and you want to start building a community around you, we actually are taking applications now for community coordinators for next year. And if you are selected to be a community coordinator, you will get a full scholarship in PAX Academy for your entire family. And so I'll drop the link for that. If you're interested in being a coordinator, you can just apply online. We're taking applications through the end of January. So you've got a couple weeks left to apply for that. And yeah, so yes, you do have a large community that you can reach out to and interact with. And then we also have a WhatsApp group. Are you in our WhatsApp group?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So that's another really great way to connect with other parents. People ask questions in there, they text, they share experiences and prayers and stuff like that. So lots of different opportunities available.
Okay. And
Yeah, go
would
ahead.
there, would there be any impact as far as like transcripts and things of that sort if we were to be traveling, because like we try to travel with the kids.
Yeah,
And
I think that's great. And actually, if you're enrolled in PAX Academy, you can get both high school and college credit for traveling with your kids.
oh, that's amazing. Okay.
So yes, we want you to learn through traveling the world. That's one of the best ways that your kids can learn.
Okay, fantastic. Yeah, because we're looking at trying to travel to Spain for a few months, and that was like one of the things we were worried would have been an
Oh, that
issue.
would be so cool. No, we would be like, go. Other schools are like, you can't be gone more than 5 days. And we're like, no, please go
Right.
for 5 months.
Okay.
Yeah. We're
Great.
a little bit
Awesome.
different in that sense. And yes, if you are interested in traveling with us as well, we are doing a cruise in May. We're going to be going on Icon of the Seas. And then we're going to do a community service trip to Guatemala in January of next year. It was supposed to be in September, but in September it's going to be like 100 degrees. And so I'm grateful that we're homeschoolers and we can push it back and we can travel when the weather is going to be nicer and not 100 degrees. So we're going to push it back to January so it won't be so hot. And then we're going to be going to Japan in March of 2027. So if any of those trips sound interesting to you, I'll drop the link to the website where you can see those trips that are coming up. And we've got some other ones in store. I haven't announced those ones yet though. So, but they're coming.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
You're very, very welcome. All right, let me see. I saw there were some other questions in the chat. Julissa, did you apply to be a coordinator? Yes. Okay. So I think I saw your application today. Your name was familiar to me. I was reviewing them today. So yes, we will be announcing who is selected to be a coordinator after we review the application. So we're accepting applications through the end of January, and then after January, we'll notify you and let you know. At the moment, we don't have anyone in San Diego, so there's definitely a need for that. The closest that we have to you is we have a mom. Actually, I'll send you the California one. Nancy, have you met Nancy Menendez? She's in Riverside. Okay, great. Yeah, Nancy's wonderful. So that's the California page for you on so you can find the Peaceful Worldschoolers group there. And if you go on the Peaceful Worldschoolers website, you can find whatever group is closest to you. And like I said, if you don't have a group that's close to you, I would highly recommend being a coordinator. It's an awesome opportunity, like I said, to have some control over creating awesome learning opportunities for your kids, and then also opening that up and being able to create an awesome local community where you live. Someone asked, do you have in Orlando, Florida? So we have 3 coordinators in Florida, and they're in Tampa area, and then Ocala, is that how you say it? Sorry, I don't know how to say all the things in Florida. So we have a couple in there, and you can just check out the Peaceful Worldschoolers website to see where they're located, but we don't have anyone in Orlando specifically yet. All right, let me see. All right, Donna said, if you don't use a curriculum, how or what do you teach? So this is one of the really interesting things about unschooling. A lot of times when people hear the term unschooling, at least when I first heard the term unschooling, I thought that meant no school, right? Like there's no school happening. But that's not true. Unschooling does not mean no school. I actually prefer the term self-directed education as opposed to the term unschooling. Not really a fan of the word unschooling because I think it gives people that negative idea that we're just not doing school and we're not doing anything and there's no learning happening, and that's not true. So when it comes to self-directed education, the focus is less on what I can teach my children and how can I support my child to teach themselves. To be honest, that is the most valuable skill that we could ever teach our children. And the ironic thing is, you can't actually teach it to them, right? Like you can't teach someone how to teach themselves. That's something that they have to learn and discover for themselves. And that is the most powerful skill, right? Because, and I would see this all the time as a public school teacher, my students in high school, it's almost like they develop this learned helplessness. And I don't know if you've experienced this with kids that have been in school for a really long time. They get to this point that they're like incapable of doing anything on their own because they're waiting for an adult to tell them what to do and how to do it all the time. And it was so frustrating for me. And I remember seeing these teenagers were like, this isn't working. And I'm like, Google it. Like you have access to Google. Like research, find your answers. Like, I am not the source of all the knowledge that there is in the world. Like, you have to learn how to learn. And that's not something that anyone can teach you. Like, you have to discover for yourself, what do I need to learn in my life to be successful? How do I learn best in my life to be successful? And that's going to be different for every single kid. So unschooling is less about what and how can I teach you, and more about how can I create an environment where you have the skills and the tools to be able to discover for yourself how to best teach yourself what you need, how you need it, and when you need it. So it's a very different focus. Unschooling is, you said how do you decide what to teach them when you're not using a curriculum? So a curriculum is basically someone else's prepackaged agenda of what your child needs to learn, when, where, why, and how, and then how they prove that they learned whatever that person thought that they needed to learn. When we think about humanity, right? Like Donna, I'm sure that actually, Donna, are you able to talk? Oh, she's here. She might have left. Okay. So when you think about in your life of something that you have learned already, I think about there's things that I've learned in my life that other people that are listening here, that maybe you haven't learned, and there's things that you have learned that I haven't learned. And so every human being has different things that they have learned in the course of their life, and different things that they need to learn, and different ways that they prefer to learn those things. And it's the same with our children. So every child has different things that they want to learn, that they need to learn, and different ways that they prefer to learn those things. And that's okay. And so unschooling honors that. We honor the fact that what my child needs to learn to be successful in their life is going to be different than the things that your child needs to learn to be successful in theirs. And so a big part of that is we want to give our children lots of opportunities to explore lots of different things so that they can figure out what it is that they really love. And then as they do that, they're going to continue down this, all the little rabbit trails that happen, right? So for example, my daughter, when we were in Guatemala, she started, she found this book in this bookstore that was there, and it was a book about Greek gods, Percy Jackson's Greek gods. And so she was reading this book, and then that book kind of spun her into learning and doing this deep dive about Greek gods, and she just started researching them on her own. So she would watch YouTube videos, and she would read articles, and we would go to the library, and she would like look at books about Greek gods and ancient Greece, and then that got to talking about like the geography of like, well, where is Greece related to Italy? We're talking about the Italian, we went to Italy, and so we're talking about how like Greece was really close to Italy, and so we were talking about the difference between the Roman gods and the Greek gods, and so it was like this whole big, lessons that she learned, not because a curriculum told her that today you have to learn about ancient Greece. It was just, this was something that captured her interest. And then we just followed the rabbit trail as much as she wanted to. And we learned about all these different things. We learned about history. We learned about science. We learned about religion. We learned about culture. We learned about, math. And there's all these different things that were a part of her learning about Greek gods and mythology and all of this kind of stuff. But it was through an interest that she had that was unique to her. And so that's kind of like what it looks like, right? Like we see the things that happen in their daily life, and every child kind of has their own unique interests, and then we just give them the freedom and the space and the resources to follow those interests as deep or as shallow as they want to. Emily said, what about neurodivergent children who are experiencing burnout and really need to be deschooled for a period of time? Learning may not be in a formal manner, but rather indirectly. Will this be sufficient during the April review? For us, yes. If you were if you were doing a review with the county, that will not fly with them. If you tell them that you're deschooling, they'll be like, what are you talking about? Show me the worksheets. But for us, of course, we understand that the deschooling is really important. And I want you to also know that during the deschooling period, your children are still learning, right? Like they're still learning the different subject areas. It's just the way that they're learning that's going to be different. So, we think about English language arts, right? English language arts covers any time that your child is reading, writing, listening, or speaking in English. I'm positive that at some point in the last school year, your child has read something, written something, spoken something, or heard something in English. All right. So it might not look like Shakespeare, but but they did. They read something, they watched something, they listened to something, they wrote about something. So they're still learning the subject area. It's just again, the way that they're doing it that's different. So same with math, right? Yes, your child might not be doing it, following an Algebra 1 curriculum at the moment. That's fine. They don't have to. But they might be practicing math in a different way. One of our favorite ways to practice math is through games. We love learning about math through like playing dice games, board games, card games. Those are great ways to practice math skills. Learning about probability and addition and multiplication and doubles and all those kinds of things are all a part of math, but it's a practical math. So again, they're still learning the subject area. It's just the way that they're learning it that's different. All right, let me see. Did that answer your question, Emily? I don't know if Emily is still here either. Okay. I answered that one. So what do you do if everyone says my 7-year-old should be, okay, so Donna asked, what do you do if everyone says my 7-year-old should be reading, but he struggles? And they say, well, he should be reading if he was in school. That's why I took him out of school because his ADHD and he was getting in trouble for not being able to sit still all day. One of the first things that I tell parents that start homeschooling and unschooling is immediately remove the word should. Should for us does not exist. Okay. Anytime that someone else is saying, oh, your child should be doing XYZ or they should know XYZ, that should be like a red flag for you that there's some more deschooling that we have to do. Anytime that we're using that word should of like, it's just not true. Your child is on his own unique time schedule, right? In the same way that like there are some kids that learn to walk when they're 10 months and some kids that don't learn how to walk until they're 18 months. Like there's a whole range of when those things happen. And especially if you're following a more natural learning philosophy when it comes to this, the natural age for kids to learn how to read is anywhere between like 4 or 5 years old up to 12 years old. And there are some kids who don't learn how to read until they're 12. And then once they learn how to read, it's like the moment it clicks, it just clicks, and then they get it and they go on and they're fine. But they just needed a little bit more time. Now, if your child is 10, 11, 12 years old and they're still not reading fluently, then yes, I would probably look into see if there's like other factors that could be contributing to that. I never taught either of my kids how to read. I never taught them how to read. Both of them learned how to read when they were like 5. And I would say like by the time they were 6, they were like really great readers. But yeah, somewhere between 5 and 6 is when my kids learned how to read. But it's different for everyone. Like I said, some kids learn when they're 5 and some kids learn when they're 10. And so, yeah, I would just continue giving him opportunities to read. Some things that you can do practically to help him with the reading piece is putting subtitles on your TV anytime that you are watching like TV or a screen, put some subtitles on. Writing him letters. My kids loved to get letters from me. So being able to like write handwritten notes from me to them was so encouraging. Another book that really helped when I asked my 7-year-old son, how did he learn how to read? He says Elephant and Piggy. So if you have not read the Elephant and Piggy series yet, I highly recommend it. That is without a doubt our favorite series, and it's a great way to help encourage your children to read. The books are very simple, they're really funny, they're very repetitive, and they have very, very like simple drawings. So it's great for kids that have ADHD that need things to be a little bit more simple and not look at these like really busy drawings on a page. So we love Elephant and Piggy. I would highly recommend checking out that book as well. All right, let me see other questions we got here. Sarah says, my son is in 9th grade. We started PAX in November. Can we submit grades in December? Would it be too soon? In Maryland, he did public school from September through November. Does it matter? Hey, Sarah. So in PAX Academy, our first semester ends on January 15th. So if you want to send them in a little bit early, that's fine. We don't require you to submit grades for the semester unless you're like planning to leave. The semester grade really is more like a check-in. The only grades that you really have to submit for us if you do want us to do the report card and the transcript for him would be the final grades at the end of the year. And the reason why we only report the final grade at the end of the year on our transcript is because so many of our students are learning at such different time scales, that we don't really have like a semester. So for example, we have several students who aren't even starting their English class until January because they're taking a college level English class and through like our university partnerships, and so they haven't even started English yet, but they're going to finish their entire year of English in 6 weeks. So if they were to give them a grade right now, there would be nothing to grade because they haven't even started yet. So that's one of the reasons why we really only worry about the grades at the end of the school year. So if you want to submit them early, you can. But like I said, we're only going to give out the transcript at the end of the year once you submit the final grades at the very end in May. Does that make sense? All right, I see Melly also had another. Hold on a second. Samantha said, how are grades calculated if there's no curriculum or older kids taking tests? So that's a really good question. And this is a question that a lot of us have actually wrestled through, like how exactly does this work, right? So with PAX Academy, there are a couple different, okay, so we give students 3 different ways to be able to earn credits. These are the same 3 ways that students can earn credits when they go to college, but ironically enough, most schools will not allow you to earn credits in these 3 ways. And I think this is what makes PAX Academy so unique and so special is that we give students from kindergarten through 12th grade the freedom to earn their credits in the same 3 ways that they can earn credits when they are in high school when they're in college. And those 3 ways are: number 1, they can take a class. All right. So even though we are unschoolers, there are times when an unschooler will want to take a class. Like I mentioned, we have students that are planning to go to college in the future, and so they decided to, instead of doing a random English 9 curriculum, instead they're going to get their English credit through our university partnership. So that means they're going to get college credit and high school credit at the same time, and that's what they're choosing to do. So they're choosing to earn their credit by taking a class, and they can do that. Some classes do require them to take tests or do projects or quizzes or discussion boards or whatever. Other classes don't. So it just depends on, the kind of class that they want to take. But again, they're welcome to choose any class that they want to. Some students choose to use like Khan Academy, which is a free online curriculum. Some people prefer to learn that way. So again, it all goes back to your child. If your child is choosing to learn in that way, awesome. And that's totally fine. Some unschoolers do choose to learn in a more formal or structured way. Typically, we see that more once they get to high school, because that's when they're starting to think about, okay, if I want to go to college, I have to learn algebra. How do I want to learn algebra? Khan Academy has a great free curriculum. I'm going to use Khan Academy, and they do it that way. The second way that our students can earn credits is through tests. So the 2 most common tests that we typically recommend are either AP tests or CLEP tests. And both of those tests are basically, it's like a 90-minute test. And if the student takes and passes this one 90-minute test, they can get both college credit and high school credit at the same time. This is an awesome opportunity for students that are great test takers because they literally don't have to do a class for an entire year. They can just study for a couple weeks, take the 90-minute test, and earn the college credit and the high school credit like that. We also have a way for them to be able to take those tests completely free. So if your student is interested in earning college credit for free, testing is a great way to do it. And then the last way that they can earn credits is, this is our specialty, and this is, I guess, more the unschooling way. And that would be, rather than taking a class, rather than taking a test, they can do what we call taking your time. And colleges refer to this as portfolio credit, but basically it is credit through your real life, real world experience. I actually worked with a mom who said that she was a stay-at-home mom for a long time. She had to drop out of college because she got pregnant, became a mom, and when she went back to college after her kids were like older, she presented a portfolio of everything that she did as a mom. She talked about how she learned about budgeting and finance to manage her like the finances in her home. She talked about everything that she had learned, all these books that she had read about child development and child psychology and all these other things as well. She compiled all this life experience that she had being a mom, presented it to the college, and they actually gave her college credit for the things that she had done as a mom and the learning that she had done as a mom. And from my opinion, if that counts for college, then it should count for us too. And so that's what we do as unschoolers. They are learning through their own independent way, whatever their unique passions and interests are. And so then how does that work with the grades? That's kind of where the grades get to be a little bit more difficult. Like, well, how do you assign a grade if they're not taking tests and they're not doing assignments and there's not like some random standard that they have to do? And so this year I actually created a self-directed learning rubric to help our parents understand how to issue grades as an unschooler. And actually, let me see if I can show you kind of what our rubric looks like so you can have an idea. Let me pull it up. Self-directed learning rubric. Okay. And I want to zoom in here. All right. And this is not like something that parents are required to use, but I had gotten so many questions from parents that were like, how do we do grades as an unschooler? That I was like, let me see if I can think of a tool that can help parents kind of think through how to assign grades when we're unschooling. And so this is the rubric that I designed. You can see here it says self-directed learning rubric. And the standards, these are the standards that we have here on the side. I refer to them as the 10 C's. And part of why we call this the self-directed learning rubric is that we actually want the students to be the ones that are filling this out for themselves. Because in my opinion, having that skill of being able to honestly reflect on myself and assess myself as a learner is so, so, so important. In the school system, we expect someone else to tell me if I'm doing good or if I'm doing bad. But a truly successful person has to be able to have that skill for themselves. They have to be able to look at themselves and say, I'm doing really well in this area, not so much. I want to improve in this area. And so giving our students the opportunity to really practice this skill of honestly reflecting on my effort, on my progress towards my goals, on the things that I have actually learned and accomplished in these different areas of my life. I think that's a really important skill for our teenagers to have. And so I actually recommend that the teenagers do the grading for themselves. So one of the first things that we changed is our grading scale. A, B, C, D, E. So for us at PAX Academy, A means abundant growth, B means becoming confident, C means continuing forward, D means developing slowly, and E means emerging awareness. If you can tell, none of these things are bad, right? These are all good things, and they really demonstrate a growth mindset, which is very important to us, that all learning is important. And so these are just kind of different ways of expressing the kind of stages of learning that they may go through. And then these different grading scales here will translate into like a more traditional GPA. But if you look at the standards that we have here, like I said, these, I call them the 10 C's, and this is what we're actually asking our students to assess themselves in. What is their curiosity like? What is their creativity like? Consistency, critical thinking, communication, collaboration, confidence and courage, clarity of purpose, commitment to growth, and last but not least is the actual content. For us, that really is last, right? The most important thing that your children can learn is not the content. The most important thing that your children can learn is all of these other C's. All these other C's. This is infinitely your child developing their own sense of curiosity and creativity, their own sense of consistency and critical thinking. That is infinitely more important than the content itself. So these skills are what is most important to us. And then here we have the rubric where we want the students to go through and kind of put words to their learning in those different areas, and so they can circle or highlight or whatever how they feel that they're doing in these different areas, and then they tally it up and make an average. So this is, again, like I said, we don't require parents to use this, but for me, I thought this was a really helpful tool because sometimes it is hard to kind of see and measure and reflect and say, okay, how am I really doing in this area, or how would I really classify myself in this particular area? So this helps to give grades. In general, most unschoolers are getting A's and B's in the subject areas, and again, that is because they're pursuing the things that they're passionate about, so they're learning deeply about the things that are interesting to them. But sometimes we have unschoolers that will give themselves a C or a D in a particular area because they just recognize like this is not really my strong suit, or I didn't invest as much time or effort and energy into learning this skill as I had planned to or as I wanted to. And yeah, so that's kind of how that works. Did that answer your question, Samantha? I see here you asked another question as well. Let me answer that. So that in terms of the annual check-ins, do we need a physical log of accomplishments like the county would need, or is this more of a virtual check-in and making sure that things are working? Just trying to figure out what I should be keeping track of when we start homeschooling in kindergarten. Yes, okay. So we don't require you to present a portfolio to us as a part of the annual review process. The way that we handle our annual reviews, and actually I can show you on our website. Give me a second. Oh, hold on. Where did my website go? Sorry, hang tight with me for a second. I'm trying to find my page here. Okay. So if you're interested in how we do the annual review with Peaceful World Schoolers, you can go to peacefulworldschoolers.com. And then if you click on the About section here, we have About our annual reviews. And here you can read about the 3 different options that we have. So like I said, our easiest and most popular option is the group review. That's where we meet via Zoom. The second option that we have is the peer review. And then our last option is an individual review. So this would be where you would book like a 15-minute phone call with someone from our leadership team. We do ask though that people save this as like a very, very, very last resort because there's a lot of you and only one of me. And if I have to do 15-minute phone calls with everyone, I will never see my own kids and they will be very sad. So we do ask that you try to make either the group review or the peer or do a peer review before scheduling an individual review, and really only save that if you have like a very urgent concern that you need to discuss with me privately, then by all means, book the individual review and I'll be happy to talk with you. But for the group review, you can click here and it gives you more details about what we talk about. So we do what's called a 3-2-1 share. And so that's where we'll share 3 celebrations. Again, these could be things that your children have learned, things that you have learned, things that you guys have accomplished over the year, any awesome resources that maybe you've discovered, or any special moments of growth or connection that you've experienced. Our 2, we're going to share 2 challenges. So again, this could be any obstacles that you faced, any area where you or your child found that you struggled over the course of this last year, maybe balancing different needs that you've had. And these could be struggles that you're actually going through, or struggles or challenges that you've actually overcome. And you can share with the people in your small group of how you overcame those struggles. And then our 1, we're going to share 1 change that we want to make going forward in the future. So we're going to do the 3-2-1 share in the breakout room. And then once we finish that, then I'll close the breakout rooms and then we'll come back together in the main group area, kind of like what we're doing now. And I stay and answer questions with everyone until there are no more questions left. Last year, the breakout room section lasted like about 20 minutes and we ended up staying on the call for 3 hours. People were just really engaged and asking all kinds of awesome questions. And we just had a great time together. So you are welcome to like leave after the, the 3-2-1 share after the breakout rooms. You don't have to stay till the very end unless you want to. But it's just an awesome time to like connect with other people and get to hear their stories. And a lot of people said that it was one of the most valuable experiences that they've had as homeschoolers, because they were really able to just connect and share feedback and share suggestions and know that they weren't alone, and hear like tips and tricks from other people who've walked this road before, and that it was just really helpful. So that's what our annual review process is like if you were in the Peaceful World Schoolers umbrella. If you choose to do PAX Academy, we do not require you to submit like proof or portfolios or anything like that to us unless you live in a state that requires that. So in Maryland, we don't have to see a portfolio for you in Maryland. But we do ask that parents, if they want us to create like the transcript for them, then they have to submit grades. So basically they would pick like, for English, math, science, social studies, physical education, all the subject areas. So you'd pick the subject areas and then you would let us know the grades that they have for those subject areas. Now, if you submit something that is like an outlier, something that would be odd, then we do at that point, we would ask to see proof or documentation to support where you're putting. And the reason for that is in PAX Academy, I have to put my signature on every single one of those report cards. And so it's really important that the things that the parents are reporting to us are true and accurate. So if there's something that would raise a red flag, then we do ask to see like proof or documentation. And we had to only do that a couple times this last year. I'll give you an example of what that would look like. We had a parent who submitted grades. Her student was in 10th grade with us, but she was in 9th grade previously at a public school. And when the student was in, when the student was in public school for 9th grade, he had failed all of his classes, like had straight E's across the board. But then when they were enrolled with us for 10th grade, The parent reported that the son had straight A's, and one of those classes that he took was calculus. Okay, so that would be something that would be like, no, he did not. It wouldn't be normal for a child who's previously failed Algebra 1 to then get an A in calculus the next year. That would just be odd. And so in that case, we want to, get evidence from the parent. And of course, if they didn't, then they would either we would issue a failing grade for that if they weren't able to provide documentation of what they did or explanation of why they gave the grade that they did. Or we'd revise it so that they would be able to actually get credit for what they actually did. And that's kind of the point. We want you to, you want to be honest in what you're reporting. And it should be an accurate, honest reflection of what your child actually learned or did. So don't report that your child did calculus if they didn't. There are other things that you can call it besides calculus. So for example, if your child is taking a more unschooling approach to math, then you would call it something like applied mathematics, right? So applied mathematics is the mathematics that you actually apply in your daily life. This could be things like cooking, measuring, construction, building, grocery shopping, playing games, budgeting, like all of those things are practical ways to apply math to your actual life. So again, you wouldn't put calculus, you would put another course title for it. But we have guidance counselors that work with the parents that help you and that will make sure that your child's transcript is complete and that it is done with integrity. So that way I can add my signature to it when they're ready to graduate and they can be proud of what they've actually done. All right, any other questions?
What determines when they graduate?
Yeah. So it really is a conversation between the parent, the student, and us.
Okay.
And yeah, it just depends on what the student's goals are. We do have some students that want to graduate early, and so we work with them to be able to help them do that. Like I said, it just really depends on what their goals are. And so for high school, in order to graduate from high school, they have to get 22 credits. They can earn those credits as quickly or as slow as they want to. Like I said, we've had students who, they're doing the college classes. They'll finish an entire year of English in 6 weeks, right? So you kind of do the math on that. If they want to take 2 or 3 college courses at a time, or take a couple every 6 weeks or whatever, like you can graduate pretty quickly. Now, if your child wants to go to college, then they'll need like 26 to 28 credits. And so again, like I said, it depends on what their goals are. If they're planning to go to college, they'll need more credits. If they're not planning to go to college, they have a little bit more flexibility. But yeah, basically when the parent and the student decides they're done, we actually have a student, I delivered a diploma today for a student who's a senior. He's graduating and he wants to start going into a welding program, but he won't be able to start the welding program until he has his high school diploma and he knows what he wants to do. And they have a cohort that's starting in January, and he's like, I just don't want to wait until June. And well, actually, it would be August. He'd have to wait until August of next year. He's like, I'm ready to start this welding program. I'm ready to go. This piece of paper is the only thing that's standing in my way. And I was like, awesome. Let's graduate you. And he's starting the program in January. So yeah, it depends on what their goals are, and we work together to figure out a way to make it happen.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, yeah. Another question.
Yeah.
So our son he literally just turned 6 a few days ago, and we were just trying to figure out. We pretty much been going the unschooling route with him from the beginning. And as I mentioned, we've been doing a lot of traveling, so it's trying to figure out the proper structural official schooling to place them under was something that we've only recently been able to figure out, which is, like as we mentioned, right, the PAX Academy was the one that we're interested in. For Maryland and purposes of legalities and things, of being able to demonstrate that he is doing unschooling, would there be a way of bridging that gap or something that can be done to demonstrate that that gap is being bridged?
What gap?
The 5-year-old year of him not necessarily being enrolled in the kindergarten / a homeschooling program kind of a thing.
Got it. Okay. Are you planning to homeschool long term, or are you planning to send him back to school?
No, he's never been to an official school, but if he wants to at some point, sure. But from the beginning, we've only been doing unschooling or at home kind of a thing.
Great. Okay. So for Okay, so at PAX Academy, we can go back and retroactively add, like, adjust for kids who have been previously homeschooled. But I will say that because your child is young, it's not really necessary to go back and like make additional records for kindergarten. I know this sounds kind of bad, but nobody really cares about kindergarten, to be honest. And in fact, kindergarten isn't even required in all of the states. It is required in Maryland, but it's not in all of the states. And let's say that tomorrow your child were to go back to public school for some reason, um they wouldn't be looking for any records for him for kindergarten either. So the process of a child going back to public school when they're in elementary school, they literally just put them in the grade that they're supposed to be on based on their age. It doesn't matter if you've been unschooling, if you've been following a curriculum, like they don't care. If he's 6, he's going to be in first grade. Um, so that's kind of
Okay.
how that piece works. Now, where the transcripts and the records become a little bit more important, that's when they get to middle school and high school especially, because high school is not age-based, it's credit-based. So they will only be able to advance in the credits based on, like, they can only advance in the grades based on the credits that they have actually achieved. And unfortunately, a lot of the counties in Maryland will not accept homeschooling credits in high school, which is crazy. We actually we had a family that was enrolled in Peaceful Worldschoolers because she didn't want to do PAX Academy for high school, and she was with us for ninth grade and then tried to go back into public school for 10th grade. This girl in ninth grade, she was taking dual enrollment classes at the community college. They would not accept any of her credits, even though she was taking college classes at the through dual enrollment through the through the community college here in Maryland, and the public school would not take any of her credits. I was like, that is insane. Like, the mom printed off a whole curriculum. She showed him like all the books that they use, all, like, I mean, she had very thorough records. She was not unschooling. She had like very thorough school records, and the public school was like, nope, we're not going to take any of it. So that's one of the reasons why I'm like, it's really important once they get to high school that they do, like, I highly recommend that they switch over to PAX Academy once they get to high school, because schools are not required to accept homeschooling credits. And in fact, in Arizona, it's actually a part of their law that in Arizona, they will not accept any homeschooling credits at the public high schools in the state of Arizona. So it's just one of those things to be aware of and be mindful. When they're in K through 8, there's a lot more flexibility to just kind of stick them back in based on their age. But once they get to high school, it really having the paper is really, really important in the world, in the academic world.
So with that being said, would it be recommended, I guess, with him being, as we said, like going into first grade, would it be recommended to start doing all the paperwork for and building transcripts and things of that sort for the elementary school? Or should we just wait until middle school / high school to switch to the PAX?
It's not really necessary in elementary school. Like I said, no one's going to ask them like, what's your kindergarten art grade? Like, no one cares. No one's asking about those grades typically. Like I said, they typically, if a kid has been homeschooled in K through 8, they usually will just stick them back in school based on whatever their birth date is. That's kind of how they do it. Some schools might have him do like a placement test or something like that to see kind of like what his level is. But even with a placement test, they usually won't place them based on their actual level. They will usually place them based on the birth date. And then if he's having a hard time, they'll like move him down. But in general, if they were to do anything, they would do a placement test, place him in the grade he's supposed to be in based on his age, and then if he's struggling, then they would, move him down. That's typically how they handle that piece. So really, like, the report cards and the transcripts in elementary school really aren't necessary. You as the parent also have a right to create your own, right? Like, you can go on your computer and make a kindergarten report card if you want to, that you can download a template or like Google, like, kindergarten report card template somewhere and find one or buy one or make one. They're not difficult or complex to be able to do it, but like I said, it's also not necessary at that age.
Yeah, so the reason why I'm asking is more in regards to being able to advance them. Like, for example, like he's 6 years old, he's fluent in reading, kind of a thing. Like, he's already doing math, he's learning his multiplication tables, things like that. So I'm just trying to figure out, like, I guess with the unschooling route, how to identify necessarily what grade, because obviously, as you mentioned, right, the curriculum in public schools is he's this old, he's in this grade. Unschooling's like, hey, he's learning on his own. But if I was to try to put him in kindergarten right now, he would lose his mind with trying to stay focused, kind of a thing, right? Like, so I'm just trying to figure out like the how do we kind of gauge his grade with that
So
schooling routes.
for us, grades aren't really a thing. Like grades don't really matter as much in the homeschool world because you're just working with your kid where they are, right? Like, so you might have a kid that, you mentioned your son is really great in these certain things. So maybe he's really great at reading. So maybe he's reading on a fourth grade level for reading, and maybe he's in first grade for math, but his birth age says he's in kindergarten. Well, like for us as homeschoolers, it doesn't really matter, right? Like we work with the kid that's in front of us. We meet our child where they're at and we help them continue to grow and advance wherever they are. For us, the grade doesn't matter. And in fact, for a long time, my kids had no idea what grade they were in. Like people would say, like, what grade are you in? They're like, we don't know. Like it really does not in an unschooling world, like, and even in a homeschooling world, like the grade is not important. What's important is that your child is happy and thriving and learning and growing and advancing, and that's what matters. So for us, like, yeah, the grade isn't really important. So as far as like our intents of like administrative purposes, we promote students the same way that public school promotes students, and that's because they finished like in K through 8, if they had a birthday and they finished, we promote them. Unless you tell us, I don't want to promote my child, I want them to repeat this grade, then we'll repeat them. But if you want to promote them to the next grade like they do in public school because they had a birthday, we promote them to the next grade.
Okay. Yeah, that
That's
makes
kind of
sense.
how it works. And then
Okay.
once they get to the high school level, like I said, that's when it becomes credit based. So that's how we can get things like for example, my daughter speaks Spanish, right? Not fluently, but she knows enough like basic Spanish. She spends a lot of time on Duolingo. I'm bilingual. A lot of our friends are bilingual. We've traveled in Latin American countries, so she's learned a lot of Spanish, enough to get through what I would call Spanish 1, right? You think about Spanish 1 is like a 1-year-old in Spanish. So she has that level of knowledge and understanding of Spanish. So in beginning in middle school, students can actually start earning credits for high school and college. And so because my daughter is in 6th grade now, she's actually going to get a transcript for the first time because Spanish is a credit that can count for high school credit. And so she already knows Spanish. So I'm going to put Spanish 1 on her transcript for this year as a 6th grader. So this will be the first year that my daughter's ever getting a grade. She's never had grades or a report card or anything prior to this year.
Okay, yeah, that answers my question. I really appreciate that.
You're welcome. You're welcome. All right, any other questions? No other questions? All right. Looks like we answered we got a lot of good questions today. We covered a lot of different really important topics. So I'll see if I ask one last time. Does anyone have any other questions? Otherwise, we will sign up for today, and this will be our final Q&A for the year 2025. That's hard to believe. Hard to believe. All right, no other questions? All right, good. So thank you guys so much for being with me tonight. It was such a pleasure to talk with you all. I hope that this conversation was helpful. I hope that you learned something new. I hope that you feel encouraged in your desire to live and learn with your children and to learn in a way that is fun and meaningful and valuable, that you can help your children discover their unique God-given passion and purpose. It has been my absolute pleasure to share with you guys. And yeah, so I see lots of thank yous in the chat. Thank you guys. I will go ahead and drop the link for our website as well. So like I said, PAX Academy is our private school for homeschoolers, unschoolers, and world schooling families. That is open to families from any state in the entire world. And then we also have Peaceful Worldschoolers, which is our homeschool umbrella. Peaceful Worldschoolers only for families that live in Maryland. But we have Peaceful Worldschoolers groups that do the weekly field trips. And so yeah, if you want to find your local Peaceful Worldschoolers group so you can get connected with other homeschoolers and unschoolers near you, you can check out peacefulworldschoolers.com. And yeah, so it was wonderful speaking with you guys. I hope you'll have a wonderful evening. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. Thank you for being with me tonight. And I look forward to seeing you guys next month. We're going to be meeting on the last Wednesday of January. So yeah, Oleg said, thank you, is very useful. For next meeting, please enable AI companion so we can capture this summary and share with the spouse. Oh, I'll have to see if there's a way that I can do that. But I do record these meetings and I share them on my YouTube channel. So if your spouse wasn't able to participate in the meeting, don't worry, you can always go back and watch the recording later. I have all those available for you, and let me drop my YouTube channel here so you can see. Peaceful World Schoolers. So you can go to YouTube and just look at Peaceful World Schoolers on YouTube, and then let me find the playlist here. Where is my playlist? Here we go. Homeschooling Q&A. Actually, I'll put it here. Oh. All right. So this is my YouTube channel. I'll just drop it in the chat there for you. So if you're not following me on YouTube already, please hit the subscribe button. I would greatly appreciate it. Thank you guys so much for supporting all the awesome things that we're doing, that I'm doing, my work, and Peaceful World Schoolers and PAX Academy and all the things. I really appreciate you guys. Our community would not be as amazing and wonderful as it is without every single one of you being a part of all the awesome stuff that we're doing and the beautiful community that we're building together. I feel really, really honored to be able to be a part of this beautiful journey with each and every one of you. So thank you guys so much. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and we'll see you guys on the last Wednesday in January. Bye.